Hi. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to SDSF Live. Please let us know where you're logging on from. I'm Nicole Shin from Houston, Texas. SDSF Live is brought to you from the Schwachman-Diamond Syndrome Foundation, providing support to families around the world. We are currently live from Facebook and YouTube. You may comment from both platforms and we'll see it in our feed. The show is public. Please do not ask or share personal information that you're not comfortable sharing on the entire internet. These shows serve as a library of topics on YouTube for families to access later, where it can also be translated into a ton of other languages. We have a very special co-host today. You guys might have remembered her from the transplant show, Savannah. She's also in Houston, Texas. So Michelle, myself, and Savannah are going to be swapping out for hosts. So we haven't had a show in a minute. So a lot of you commented on the last show that I looked really bad. I was going through IVF at the time, and I'm now 4 months pregnant with another baby. It is a match. So we'll talk about that after Brian presents of the challenges of SDS families having a match in their family. So Savannah, I'm so excited. You're one of my favorite people on the planet. She's another board member of ours on SDSF. And this is like a really awesome show for you to be on. So Savannah, I'll let you introduce yourself and why the show is so special for you.
Well, like you said, I'm Savannah Lillywhite from the Houston area, and you're also one of my favorite people on the planet. This show is really special to me as many of y'all know, my son Lincoln had a transplant 2 years ago that saved his life, and they went through Be the Match and was able to find a perfect match for him. And we just recently got a letter from the donor, so we're in the process of getting to find out who it is. And it's just really exciting and humbling to, that there's people out there that are willing to do that for our loved ones.
It's really amazing. So we have someone from Missouri, someone from California. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jenny, for the hair. Actually, Michelle chopped off her hair very similar, very, very short too. She's not able to be on. So like I said, Savannah, my baby's due in November, so Savannah's going to be on a lot more while I'm out with the baby. So thank you, Savannah, for swapping out for us when we have something. So I'll let Savannah introduce our special guest tonight.
So our special guest is Brian Allison. He is a graduate of Louisiana State University with a degree in marketing. He started representing Be the Match in 2013, working for Life Share Blood Centers in North Louisiana as a program coordinator for their marrow donor program. And he relocated to Houston, Texas in 2017 to join the recruitment team at Gulf Coast Regional Blood Center. He focused his efforts on establishing an online presence for the program and building strong relationships with local hospitals. His efforts paid off, and he was promoted to hospital and patient relations coordinator. And in 2021, Brian accepted an account manager position directly with the National Marrow Donor Program, Be the Match, covering Southeast Texas.
We're so proud of Brian. So Brian, full disclosure, Brian is our is Roman's. Are you still his rep, or did that switch with your new promotion?
You guys hadn't been able to get rid of me yet.
Okay. So Be the Match is very special to my family, people that don't know our story. So my son is half Chinese, half Italian, and he still has no match on the registry. That's how hard some of these patients are having of finding a donor. And that's not without, I can't even count how many drives we've had for Roman over the years. So Be the Match has done so much for our family personally. You were one of our first guests on on SDSF Live 2.5 years ago. So we thought we'd bring you back because there's a lot of new families and a lot of families that don't have matches or have very low matches on the registry. And it's important to know if you have like 5 or less, like what your odds of actually, connecting with that match and that match following through. Approximately Be the Match is important for SDS families, especially because about 30% of patients will need a transplant either because of bone marrow failure or progressing to MDS or leukemia. Statistically, patients in general, not just SDS patients, will rely. You said 70%, Brian, on Be the Match, not having a sibling match in their families. So 1 in 4 families should have a sibling match in their family. That's just rolling the genetic dice that 1 in 4 siblings should match each other, their HLA. But then SDS families have an even larger challenge of 1 in 4 siblings might also have SDS, so that some families actually have a sibling match in their family, but then that sibling match also has SDS. So just be the match is really important for especially SDS families. So Brian, we're gonna turn the floor over to you and let you present.
Yeah, so let me share my screen here with you guys. I brought my PowerPoint with me. This is what I normally share when I do community education. So let me know if there are some difficulties here. Technology doesn't always work well with us. All right, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Looks good.
All right. So a little bit about Be the Match. Be the Match is the common name that we use in the public. People in the hospital, doctors, nurses, they still call us the National Marrow Donor Program, or NMDP. We work with patients who are battling blood illness, such as leukemia, lymphoma, aplastic anemia, and of course, Swatchman-Diamond syndrome. There are an estimated 76 illnesses that are curable with stem cell or marrow. The reason Be the Match exists is every 3 minutes, someone is told they have one of these illnesses and their chance for survival, they need a stem cell or marrow transplant. The way it works typically, Nicole, you touched on this already, they'll test family members first. Mom and dad are never going to be a perfect match for their kid because you've gotten half your genes from your mom, half from your dad. So usually a parent's going to be a 50% match at best. If you're going to find a match in your family, it is from a sibling with the same birth parents, but that only happens about 30% of the time. Most of the patients who need a transplant are relying on a stranger. That's where Be the Match comes in. We maintain the registry of donors that hospitals all over the United States and even in other countries are relying on to find donors. So donor registration is super easy. It's something that you can do from home. You're also welcome to find us in the community. We're always doing events, but it's so easy now. The donor fills out a short form on their phone. It takes 3 to 4 minutes. I'm often surprised at how quick somebody gets through with filling out their form. And it's basic contact information, who you are, how we can get in touch with you. The way we connect the donor with the patient is by a mouth swab sample. It's just 2 swabs, one on each side of the cheek. We send that into the lab. They test it. Takes about 8 weeks on average to get somebody into the database. From that point until they turn 61, they could get a call that they're a potential match for a patient. We get all kinds of questions. People often say, oh, I'm O negative. I'm the universal blood donor. I'm going to match somebody. What we do is significantly different than just blood typing. So it's HLA testing. It is a genetic test. So typically, because of that, a patient's match is going to be someone the same race and ethnicity as them with similar heritage to them. These numbers are very impactful. It's very hard to see working with patients because I know patients that are more ethnically diverse are going to struggle. Nicole talked about me being your rep for several years now, and Roman is a prime example of why we need to add more diversity to the database. The more diverse our patient is, the harder it is for them to find a match. And a lot of times people will see these statistics and ask us, well, why don't you have multiracial patients on here? And it's because you can't put a specific percentage or odds of that patient finding a donor because there are way too many variables. Some of our multiracial patients, their chance of finding a donor is going to be in the teens comparatively to others, maybe less than 1%. So it's very hard to put a number, but it's one of those things. The more donors we add, the more diverse our database becomes, the easier it is for some of those patients to find their match, but we've got to get more people involved. So signing up is super easy. Anybody can fill out that form as long as you're within the age range of 18 to 40. Anybody can swab their cheek. That's the simple part. People have these great fears and misconceptions when it comes to marrow. So I always like to talk about those head on. People think it's a huge needle, or, oh my gosh, I watched that episode of House or Grays or Chicago Fire, and they did the marrow episode, and this guy was screaming. It is not like that. So I always like to talk about that. Another reason people want registers, they worry about money. Healthcare or lack of healthcare is a big barrier to treatment in our country. And that's not something that should keep you from being able to save a life. We do a lot of fundraising. We do grant writing. We receive some government funding so that our donors are never asked for a dime. Even if you miss time off from work, they will ask you for your last paycheck stub. They will write you a check for the time that you missed. We've taken care of childcare expenses. We've taken care of course, transportation for you and somebody to go with you, your meals while you're donating, everything. I think to me it was odd, but we had a lady that had 2 Yorkies that she needed pet care, and that was her barrier to donating. And we sent them to a doggy day spa. That's what it took for her to be able to save a life. So it didn't cost our donor anything. So our program is still called the National Marrow Donor Program, which is a little misleading because there are 2 different ways that our donors can donate. Peripheral blood stem cell is actually the most common method. Typically, when we have a request from a donor for marrow, it's because they match a child, and 80% of our patients are adults, 20% are children. So it's pretty much the same statistic. About 80% of our donors are asked for stem cells, and about 20 are asked for marrow. So stem cell collection is an easy process. It's very similar to giving plasma or platelets. A lot of people are familiar with that. Very similar process. The biggest difference is it probably at least half of his donation, but you're just sitting in a recliner. They have a TV that you can't see above him. Our donors will watch TV. We order Uber Eats if they get hungry. They're just hanging out with us. Once they get done, you go home, you're back to your normal routine, usually the next day. You may feel a little bit tired, but that's about it. It doesn't really hinder your day-to-day operations or activities. So marrow donation, that's the big scary one that everybody worries about. And a lot of people are more familiar with the biopsy that the patients go through. I've been there with Nicole when Roman goes through his. It's not a pleasant thing for the patients to go through. Many of the patients that we work with, they can't be sedated when they have that done. It is very painful to them. However, when we have a match for a donor, donation is significantly different. The biggest difference is the donor is under general anesthesia. You're completely asleep. And it's really funny because it sounds scary, but I've had several donors that have donated both methods, and they match more than one person. And I've asked them, if you got called a third time, which would you rather do? And every single one of them said, oh, marrow, absolutely. That is the best nap I ever had in my life. So as you can see, there are no stitches, no staples, no scars, nothing big and scary. This is one of my college donors that shared this picture with me. She said, if it can help save lives, please share this picture. And she's very open about her story. She said her butt was sore for a day or two. She felt like she did squats. And that's what we hear a lot. It's more muscle soreness, kind of like you've gotten your tetanus shot, your flu shot, your COVID vaccine, your arm sore for a little bit. Same thing with this. If you put a needle into your muscle, it irritates it. It's going to get inflamed. You can take Advil or Tylenol. It relaxes it. You go about your normal routine. Now, most people do take off work the next day or two just to relax. and it takes your body about 2 weeks on average to replace and regenerate what you donate. So that is something that your body's constantly replacing. It's it's not something that you're going to lose and never get back. It's constantly regenerating itself. So that's kind of how the program works. It's super easy. We get a lot of questions, a lot of people have their beliefs on what marrow donation is and how it works, and it's not. So I wanted to make this kind of fun, you guys. Let's try something different today. You guys are my first group. Nicole, can you guys see this okay? All right. So let's see how much you got and what questions we may still have to answer. If you guys will join the Kahoot, you can either go to kahoot.it on your phone and enter the PIN, or you can scan the QR code. It should take you directly there. I see Nicole, Savannah. All right, come on, the rest of you guys. Let's jump on here. Let's see what you learned in my short spiel. Jenny is logged on. I'm hoping I'm saying Mora correctly. Greg, hey, there's our man behind the scenes jumping in. A couple more minutes and we'll get going. All right, so let's get this show rolling. What is the most common way to donate to a patient? All right. Let's see how we did. We've gotten few for stem cells and marrow. Savannah and Jenny, you guys are going to have to do better than that. Stem cell, the most common way of donating. You still got time to catch up. True or false? Be the Match pays medical costs, but the donor pays for the travel expenses. Got a 50% shot at getting it right. Good luck. We tricked some people with that one. So there is no cost at all to donate. Be the Match covers all expenses, including travel. Nicole still in the lead. Nicole has been doing this a long time, so she's kind of got an unfair advantage. So this one is a thinker, just to see what you guys think. How much do you think it costs to add a new donor to the registry to actually test those swab kits? Take your best guess on this one. All right, somebody got it. Looks like right on the nose. Let's see who that is. All right, Nicole is on fire. Jenny is moving up through the ranks. So yes, it costs $110 approximately for every new donor that we add to the database. That's why it's very, very important that we only sign up people who are really committed to actually donating if they get called. Not only that, is a patient's life is on the line, so we need them to be extremely committed to making sure they do this. This is a multi. What type of patients do we work with? And I can spell illnesses, I promise. Illnesses. All right, Nicole's still hanging in there. Come on, Greg. I have faith in you. %50 chance of getting it right. Always love these. That is correct. A donor's blood type does not have to be the same. All right, Nicole still on top. So it is really cool fact that if a transplant is successful, if the donor's blood type is different than the patient's blood type will change to match their donor's blood type. So it's always interesting to me to find out, where did you start out? And then what is your blood type after transplant? It's always kind of neat. What is another name for Be the Match? That was too easy. I really like the National Swab Center. Did we lose Greg on that one? Where'd you go, Greg? 2 more. How many people who register go on to donate? I didn't talk about this in the presentation, but this is one that people ask a lot. If I sign up, what are the chances that I'm actually going to become a donor? We got a few correct answers. So the answer is 1 in 430. When we register someone, 1 in 40 will get a call that they're a potential match, but after secondary testing, only 1 in 430 will actually go on to donate. All right, Nicole, you're going to have to get one wrong, I guess. How much does it cost if I'm a match? More than Taco Bell, but less than Chewy's. Easy question. Amanda got 6 out of 8. Zibski misses. And Nicole, 7 out of 8. You're the winner, Nicole. We will get you a Be the Match stainless steel coffee cup headed your way. All right, we're back live. Let's see. Kahoot doesn't want to shut down for us. Go away, Kahoot. I may have to call my son-in-law downstairs. There we go. We are back live. Can you guys see me again? All right. Everybody else sees me. I don't see the rest of the hosts. Where did you guys go? Obstacles to people saying yes. Oh my gosh. I've heard so many different things, to be honest with you. Um, Anything from I really didn't mean to sign up for this. We do hear that a lot, unfortunately. Hey, there you guys are.
Hi, sorry. I'm
Yeah.
kind of the unofficial they've always joked that I'm like an unofficial member to be the match team. I've been to so many of these. That was fun.
You're
I
on
love Kahoot.
payroll. You just hadn't gotten your check yet. That's all.
Savannah, do you guys do Kahoot in school a lot?
Yes, I haven't as much with my pre-K kids, but I know it's very popular in the older grades.
So we just asked Brian, what are reasons people don't say yes?
It varies. It's the answers are all over the place. The most common one that I hear is I really didn't mean to sign up for this. A lot of times, especially we recruit heavily at colleges because our donors, we really are looking for those younger 18 to 20-ish donors. A lot of times they'll do it because their friend did it or their sorority or fraternity. They were trying to get all the members to join and they didn't want to be the only one that didn't sign up. They really didn't want to do it. That's one of the biggest things we hear. Beyond that, I think probably fear is another big one. And that's one thing. We have an excellent donor team that walks them through that. If that's an issue, they go back over why they signed up, how this works. We have a lot of one-on-one conversations with them. And a lot of it, people just forgot. People, your chances of donating, again, 1 in 430. And oftentimes when I go to nursing schools in particular, a lot of times I'll have those nursing instructors that will say, hey, I registered for this 20 years ago when I was a nursing student. You guys never called me. Am I still in the database? Do I need to re-register? And that's the case with a lot of people. You're not going to hear from us unless you're a match for a patient. So a lot of people sit in there and they forget. One of the more funny stories that I've heard doing this, a gentleman, he ended up getting some emails from Be the Match, and we were trying to get in touch with him. He was a potential match, and his wife got to his emails first and thought he had joined a dating site.
Jenny just wrote that her husband thought her husband donated and thought he got pranked.
Not very happy when she got home to thinking that after 2 kids and 20 years of marriage that he had joined a dating site. But and even he had to go through the emails himself and read them because he didn't remember what Be the Match was. And oftentimes that's the case. So we do try and do we spend a lot of time with our donors when we can. We're out in the field. We do a lot of education and because we want people to understand what they're signing up for, not only the process, but the weight that is on their shoulders. If they're a match, we need them to follow through.
Right.
And we train our staff members that if you have someone that is on the fence about becoming a donor, don't register that person.
Right.
Encourage them to think about it. Especially now. Used to, you had to find us and fill out a paper form. Now you can, I always joke, you can, take your morning potty break and register to be a donor at the same time. It really is that easy.
That easy, yeah.
It's something that anybody can do almost any time. Think about it, then come back.
What is the percentage of people that say yes versus people that say no?
I haven't seen the
The
recent
most
statistics
recent, right?
providing
Because it
exact.
was up during the pandemic, wasn't it?
It unfortunately, at least for our state in Texas, we've seen a big increase in people that are not following through
Oh,
post COVID.
not following through. Because I remember originally when the pandemic started, I thought there was an increase of people saying yes because there are obstacles of I'm too busy or I have a work flight or
Well,
something
the
remote, right?
average is about 60% that follow through, and it varies. Different ethnic groups have a different follow through rate, but yeah, and I know in Texas alone, because that's where I recruit, we've seen a lot of people that are just not willing to follow through. Concerns about the catching COVID while in the hospital setting, donating has been a big concern. And I think a lot of it is fatigue. People have been bombarded with
Everything else, right?
a lot of medical stuff. We've gotten the vaccine, we've gotten the booster, and it's just something else. And it's things are getting back to normal, and we've changed how we speak to people, and reassuring people that even now that we're coming out of the pandemic, this has been a safe process this whole time. It's very impressive to go to a donation site, and I work for Be the Match. I do this, and they wouldn't even let me come into a donation site. They're making sure it's exclusive to that donor and allowing as few people as they can, and a lot of cleaning process in between. So it's been very, very safe this whole time. So
When
I
you
think
say
a lot
swab,
of
do people think now nose swab?
we've
Because everyone's been tested a million times, right? Savannah's wearing a Roman shirt that says swab y'all.
We've had a couple of live drives where I've given instruction to a donor and
nose.
trying to do something else, and they had the swab halfway up their nose. That's not the mucosa that we want on our
Because they're
swabs.
so used to swabbing for
everybody's
COVID
just used
now.
to that. So yeah, and that's one thing that I've never had to train my volunteers on before, but now we have to tell them, make sure they know it's just the inside of the cheek. I don't want your boogers. I just, that's not for us.
Brian, one drive I helped with years ago, the guy, bless his heart, he didn't have the swab side, he had the hard side, and he was like scraping the inside of his cheek for like DNA or something. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, how much do you need? And I was like, some things need more explanation. So when I started working with y'all 7.5 years ago almost, it was a 4-page form.
Yes.
And then if someone joined online and they had to return their kit, talk about how this process, now it's a pretty simple process. There's a QR code. I've been so impressed with how you guys have whittled this down to, it used to be very hard for me as the mom working these drives that people couldn't even stop. The 4-page form was too much for them. I'm thinking, my son needs a match. You can't fill out a 4-page form. It was too much. It would aggravate me so much. But you guys have really done a lot of work to figure out how do we get them to commit and make this an easier process.
Yeah, from where we came to where we are now, big changes. I mean, we were lugging around big cases of unused donor forms, and it was 4 mouth swabs, 4 cotton swabs.
Was 4. That's
for
right.
each quadrant. Now we've gone to it's complete paperless. It's only 2 mouth swabs now, 1 for each side. And it's, I've got a relatively new staff member here in the Houston area, training her and just, telling her you would not believe how this used to be. We would, there were plenty of days, Benita, who covers Beaumont and Louisiana area, we would do drives at LSU together and, get done after working a long, hard day and get back to our hotel. And we had to sit in, find a restaurant or down in the lobby, and we
Oh,
had
it
to
took
sit and
forever
go
afterward.
through.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you had to go through each one of those 4-page forms to make sure everything was
everything
there.
was filled out.
Nothing was
Right.
missing. And if something was missing, you had to call that donor and say, hey, you didn't put this. Now there's no way that they can
Because they can't
omit
get through
things.
the online form
It
without, like,
doesn't let you
can't
continue.
collect
Exactly.
$200, can't pass go without getting through all the steps. You
Right.
guys have really made
And
it smart.
it amazes me now when somebody registers, um, and especially college students, because they're so tech savvy
So
and
tech
they're so
savvy.
quick.
Yeah,
They'll scan that QR code, and before I can get their swab kit ready for them,
they're done.
they're ready to do their swab kit. They're done. It is
You can get
super
so
fast.
many more donors now than you used to be because you were having to sit down with them and make sure they filled out
Right.
everything on the form and probably.
Yep.
Savannah, were you going to say
Well,
something?
Oh, I was waiting
Oh.
until y'all were done. I was going to interrupt.
Okay.
I was just gonna sorry, my child was freaking out in the background, so I muted myself.
So are my children. I always tell everyone this is just 2 SDS moms or 3 now.
I was just thinking, maybe my ADHD excitement, like you got that vibe from me. But I was thinking about, I imagine some of the other obstacles, and you talked about it actually, is people are afraid it's going to hurt,
Yep.
about being uncomfortable and it made me think of the letter from my son's donor that we got. And in response to my telling him, thank you so much for, being selfless and taking the time and being willing to do this. Cause like Nicole said, some people aren't willing to fill out, 4 pages some forms.
Yep.
And, he really downplayed it. He really was like, no, your son was a brave one. I was just, a couple pokes. Cause he was willing to do the actual, withdrawal from his hip. And where most of the time it's a peripheral blood draw, and but he was willing to do that. And he still was like, it was not a big deal. Your son was the brave one. I'd do it again. It's worth it to help give him a chance. Like I really was blown away and by that.
It is also a little hard as the parent, just a warning for parents that are going to go do drives. I think, and maybe this has gotten better, but you do wind up getting people that are like, I'm scared of needles. I'm scared of blood. I'm scared of, that's totally legitimate. I mean, that's a big fear of a lot of people. Our kids get this annually at a minimum, right? Like Brian's been there with Roman. He's had 8 now. Like I can't even imagine how many Lincoln has had having a transplant, or they're getting blood taken constantly. So it's a little hard to put yourself in their shoes and be empathetic or sympathetic to the challenges that they're presenting back to you of why they don't want to register, because you're like, my kid has been through so much. Why would you say no to this? It's so minimal. Like they have, hundreds of thousands of these, and you just have to do it a couple of times or something, or one time. So it is a little challenging, but it is so rewarding. So for the parents that, I will say, like, it is really beautiful how Be the Match is almost part of the SDS diagnosis starter kit at this point. Like a family gets diagnosed and they're immediately fundraising for a cure and then working with Be the Match. Like they really try to dig their heels into it. It's really nice. And they'll say, like, I know my kid has a match maybe, but other families don't have matches. And we've all been like really helpful in helping each other. So if a family wants to go help with Be the Match, what should their first process be, Brian?
So the first process would be to visit the Be the Match website, bethematch.org. There is a request to be contacted link. They just fill out on there. And it goes to, it's called our patient lead liaison. It's going to go to that person who's going to be their initial contact. They'll reach out to them, find out what's going on, how can Be the Match help you? If you're wanting to do drives or share your kid's story, which it's always good to be able to put a face with
It really
the cause.
is. It really is.
You know,
Having the parents there is so helpful.
well, and just the photos and to be able to share the patient stories. You
Mhm.
know, I've known you guys for so long. I feel like I've written Roman's biography some days,
Yeah.
but it makes it very real to people.
Mhm.
When I say, "Hey, we have this kid that lives, just down the road from you that's
Mhm.
been searching," but it plays a big role. But the what happens is that lead liaison is going to call you, give you a little bit of information, and if you say, "Yeah, I want to get involved in my community," he's going to forward your information to the rep in your community. We have people all over the place that are doing drives and community education. That will be your primary contact person. And it's really cool because, let's say I think I have to go back to our public comments. Let's see, we have Missouri, we have California
Mhm.
that are on the call today. If you live in one of those areas, you'll be working with a rep in Missouri or California, but we also share those patient stories across our network. So
Right.
Team Roman's story is being shared in New York, it's
Mhm.
being shared in California, it's being shared in
This is
Idaho.
their matches
Not
could be anywhere. Like, Savannah was
absolutely.
sharing with us, her son's match is
Yep.
international, most likely. So that's common too, right?
Yeah,
For the
absolutely.
matches to be international. With this, I should mention too, this show is international. So we don't have anyone on right now that I know of that is international, but Be the Match is in a lot of countries, right? So if you go to the main website, you could find your local country's registry, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So there is a question from Jenny over in the public comments. Jenny, you asked, what's the best way to encourage people to join if they don't do college drives? So you can register at home, and I'll send Nicole the full link, the URL that people can use. But the easiest way is to encourage people to text to join.
Oh yeah,
So
text to
people
join.
can
Yeah,
text SDSF, Swatchman Diamond Syndrome Foundation,
that's right. I forgot we have a text too.
SDSF
Yeah,
to 61474. What
we should
happens when
make
you
shirts that
text
say
that?
that.
Do what?
We should make shirts that say that with on the back. It's so
Yes.
easy to text to now. I forgot about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Text or even QR code. I'll
Mhm.
send you guys all that good stuff. But when somebody texts SDSF to 61474, it's going to auto respond with a link. You click on the link, click join the registry now, and register at home. You'll fill out that quick form, and we're going to mail you a swab kit prepaid. You just swab your cheek, drop it back in the mail, and get it back to us. Super easy.
I see a comment from Giselle that the sister was a donor. They had to use more stem cells. Giselle, that would be a better question for your hematologist than Be the Match. It's a very SDS specific question, so we're not going to ask it on this. I'm sorry that's happening to your family. But we're not going to ask it on this show. Brian would be the best person to answer that. Um, I have a question. How often does someone need multiple matches? So she does bring up a point of they went back to this the sister who was the original donor, and I have heard that, but we know Savannah and I know multiple people that have needed multiple
Mhm.
donors.
Yeah.
How often does that happen?
I don't have a
Okay.
specific number to give you, Nicole.
Yeah.
I've out of the patients that I've worked with over the
Mhm.
years, I've had a handful that did need
Yeah, they
multiple,
relapse and need.
but I don't know a specific number
Sometimes they
for you.
top them off with the original donor, and then sometimes they'll need for
I,
another
you know, and
family.
I've seen it both ways where, they just needed a few more cells and, they are starting to bank some of those cells in that instance, which is really great. They're working on what they call the biobank, to where they can pre-collect donations and keep them frozen of the
Yeah,
more common HLA types. That's something that they're working on. So there are some really cool things coming up.
yeah.
Jenny, to answer your question, 18 to 44. It dropped October 1st. So donors have to be 18 to 40 years of age. And as far as those people like myself who have too much experience and are not eligible to register due to the age
Is that what we're
range,
saying now? That we're too experienced that we can't?
way
I'm in
too
that
much
category now
experience.
too. We're
My
just too
joints
experienced to
broke.
donate.
My knees and my hips, I think they're over the age range, but myself personally, I just have too much experience.
Experience, okay.
We encourage those people, you can donate financially to be the match. Every new
Or
donor,
encourage others, right? We all know people in the 18
right,
to 40
encourage other
range.
people. Right. Well, and there are several ways. Again, the financial donation, each donor is $110. Cover the cost for somebody that can donate. Get involved in your community. In the greater Houston area, which is the 5th most populated city in the nation, there are 2 of us doing donor recruitment. So if there are events that people want us to come to, if we're scheduled to be somewhere else, we're turning those events down.
Yeah.
We need quality volunteers that are willing to learn how to register. They're willing to go set up at an event on their own, and we can train people to do that. So we are always looking for good volunteers.
What are some health barriers to donating? I know obesity is one, right?
Obesity is one. If you are
Some
on
diabetes situations.
do what?
I'm sorry, some diabetes situations, correct? Like insulin dependent?
If you are on, it's autoimmune. Diabetes is autoimmune, and there are about half of the autoimmune disorders that are fine. You can still register as a donor. A lot of them, it depends on how you're being treated. Myself, for example, I have psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis, and I take a biologic. The medical condition, I'm fine to donate, but the medicine I take to treat it with prevents me from being a donor. Same thing with diabetes type 1. If you're taking insulin, that defers you from being able to be a donor. If you're type 2 and not on insulin, then you can be a donor. And the biggest thing, what I really love about this new online platform is I don't have to screen the donors like we used
Yeah,
to.
you used to. We
People
would.
I have so and so, then we'd look it up, and now that's part of their questionnaire when they were on the phone. It's going to ask them, "Do you have these?" And if it does, it defers them and lets them know this is why you're deferred.
So those of us that have been around for a bit, the 4-page form is shorter. The online system will go, like he was saying, the donors that are, so originally they told me that Roman had 2 donors. And I thought, okay, great. Then they said, but they're international donors and they're really low res and they're probably not going to be good donors. So he probably has 0. And then it became 0 and it's still the number 0 on the registry. And so what Be the Match has done smarter and smarter and smarter is get that form down. It's online. Those things that would knock out. So that there used to be more donors in there that weren't really qualified donors, right? Like they might have been weeded out from a health concern, or they've knocked down the age. You guys have knocked down the age, and the reason for that is 90% of the donors are under 40, right? Is that correct? Yeah. So they want that good marrow. So, and it is expensive to register a donor. So they want to get, a lot of people get frustrated and they're like, but I want to donate, but we really want good, right? We want good marrow. Younger marrow is the better marrow.
Right.
So I always say, if someone says I have a health issue or I'm too old, too experienced, I guess, I say, you always know people 18 to 40 and you could financially donate. And it's really, like, especially with social media, it's really easy to share. If you know one of our families, please share our story and help us get donors, because when you put a face to why people need, I've had a few friends in recent years say yes to donating because I've shared over and over and over again our struggle with Roman. And it's so important to share because people will say yes more likely because they're like, I know that family that have been struggling with this for so long, or Savannah's family that needed a unrelated donor. They start thinking about, what if this was me? Would someone say yes for my family? And so they're more likely to say yes.
Right.
And,
A lot
you
of
know,
people, oh, sorry. I was going to
you're-
say, just joining on that, I've talked to numerous people who didn't know anything about donating bone marrow, or, that was needed, what it was for, and just them getting to know and love Lincoln, had them going and joining and letting me know. And so that really is huge, that putting the face to these patients, to these that they see. It's children, it's young adults, it's adults, it's people that they can actually maybe help save, so
So
it helps get over some of those obstacles for them.
it does help a lot. And they've seen our kids go through bone marrow
Yeah,
over and
right.
over and over and all this. Like, they're like,
At
if
least
that
once a
kid can go
year.
through all that, I got this. This is easy.
Right.
That's what my friends tell me. I
Just
thought about Roman.
adding on to that, this is year number 9 for me doing this, and every patient family that I have worked with, until their loved one needed a transplant, they had no idea
I
what
didn't.
Be the Match
No clue.
was.
No clue. And I probably would have been one of those people that said I was too busy too.
Right,
I
that's
would have been one
most
of those
people. So
Yeah.
the more people we have out there saying, "Hey, have you ever heard of Be the Match?"
Mhm.
They're not a dating service. They're trying to save lives. This is something you can do. That's huge. Just being a voice for the cause. And I always say my job is to be a voice for searching patients. Anybody can do that. You don't have to work for Be the Match to be a Be the Match advocate.
Right.
We
And that's
can
what's been
always
really great about the SDS community. We're all really working together now to help all of us that are needing matches. We're not just sitting back and going, well, my kid has a match, so I'm okay. So what we hear a lot is, I joined in college, I'm 40 now, or 30 or something now. I've never got a call. So I usually say, update your contact information, right? Because if they can't find you.
Yep.
Or what if they say, I joined through DKMS? That's another question we get.
Yeah.
I joined through another program. What now?
So DKMS is an international registry. They're one of our partners. We share our databases, internationally. They're interchanged. We all work together.
Right.
So if you're registered with one, there's no need to
Join the other
register with
registries,
another.
right?
You're going to show up in that patient search regardless.
Oh, I should also say too, we talk about a lot of registries with SDS, because there's an SDS registry, there's a bone marrow, like there's a lot of different registries. So this is not the SDS registry, but we talk a lot about joining. This is a bone marrow or stem cell registry, or we got to change that terminology. But this is for patients needing a transplant and needing an unmatched or unrelated donor, right? So a matched unrelated donor. So this is really important to SDS families and a lot of different families. So once you get more familiar with especially for new families, just getting their feet wet, you start learning about the sister diseases to SDS and all the other, you become friends with other people on the hematology floor, oncology floor, and you're like, this is a really big issue. There's a lot of people out there looking that are needing transplants. This is not just an SDS issue. It's huge. Like, you talked about how many diseases. It was 76. Is that right?
The last count that I saw, there were 76 illnesses that are recognized as curable with stem cell or marrow.
Right. So that's unbelievable. Do we have any more questions? Savannah, did you have anything else before?
No, I didn't. I just, again, want to thank you for all that you do for our community, for all our babies and that need a match or have gotten a match because of all the efforts that you and Be the Match put into helping them.
Thank you, Brian.
It's a labor of love. Nicole knows.
I know it's a lot of work. You do a lot of work.
We love it. I absolutely love what we do.
I want to thank Greg, who's behind the scenes, who did very poorly on the quiz. Just kidding, Greg. So, Greg.
So did I, and I really do know it's stem cells. I promise. I was just
you're like, my son had a transplant. I know this. That was super fun. We're going to need to add Kahoot to a lot of our
Yes, it was-
less interesting topics, maybe.
I'm really upset nobody selected more than Taco Bell, but less
I
than
know that
Chewy's.
was a really fun one. That was really fun. Thank you. That's one of my favorite things about you, Brian, is that you make a really difficult topic. You've always made it relatable, fun. You always find ways to engage with the donors or the viewers or whatever that when you present, you always are able to connect with people. And I really appreciate it's hard to, you've had to pivot a lot through the years.
It's a hard topic for some, but it's the realistic part is it's not as big and scary as what we make it sound.
Yeah.
People have all these misconceptions about marrow, and one of the most impressive things that I've seen from one of my moms, they did an experimental collection from mom. She donated to her daughter, and once the anesthesia wore off, I watched this woman walk down the sidewalk from Methodist down to Texas Children's to be with her daughter.
Child, right? Yeah.
After getting bone marrow.
We know so many parents that have done that. They just get up and then walk out. Yeah.
And these kids just, I love working with the kids. They're so resilient, and they don't know the word quit. So,
I think congratulations too on your new role. It's so well fitted for you, and it's so important to partner with the hospitals, especially because those relationships are so important, especially hospitals that have transplant centers.
Yes.
So did you have anything else?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so we have upcoming. So we took a little break for a couple of different reasons. So we've had this show on for 2.5 years. So a lot of you have heard that we're not having Camp Sunshine this year. So Camp Sunshine is a place where we normally fly out doctors, and we have a lot of presentations. So in lieu of camp, we'll have another camp series, and that's launching in August. So we have Wills, an upcoming show on Wills. So Wills for like yourself, families, and Wills for our children. It's been highly requested, and it's actually being presented by an SDS mom, so that's really helpful. That's an upcoming show this month. And then July, we're hitting school accommodations really hard. So we're going to have a neuropsych show and a school accommodation show. And then August starts our SDS 101 with the registry. And then we have shows slated through December. So, and on. So you're going to see a lot of Savannah, probably closer to November when I have the baby, but she'll be swinging in and out. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for coming back. And it'll be interesting to watch the last show versus this show, because a lot has changed in 2.5 years, especially with the pandemic. And so thank you for being on again. Thank you all for coming back and watching the shows. So we'll have 2 shows a month. Michelle and I decided that's a good number we used to have like 1 show a week, and it was just a lot to prepare. And so we have a lot of shows coming up. So be watching on our website and our Facebook page for those shows coming up, in our newsletter. We'll highlight those too. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for Savannah. Thank you so much. And thank you for Greg behind the scenes. We'll put up a graphic on our website and our Facebook page of the text too. Thank you guys.